The word niche can mean a recess in a wall, a specialised area of a market, or describe the job you're best suited to perform in order to feed the oppressive capitalist machine. But why do some people say niche and others say nitch? If you're British, you're probably thinking nitch is just something those dumb Americans say. And if you're one of those dumb Americans, you of course think niche is one of the many charming idiosyncrasies that make British people so endearing. According to the OED, the word niche or niche is believed to have originated in the 1600s from the French niche, meaning kennel, or perhaps from an Old French noun derivative of nicher, which means to nestle or build a nest. The American Heritage Dictionary posits that the word was anglicised to niche soon after its incorporation into the language, but in the early 20th century, English speakers familiar with French recognised the word as French in origin, and, seizing the opportunity to rub their intelligence in the faces of their contemporaries, adopted the French pronunciation. This origin of the pronunciation change is generally accepted these days, and there is evidence in historical literature that niche was the accepted form before the 20th century. After lamenting his inability to enact capital punishment upon notable politicians of the time, as any reasonable person wishes to do, Johnathan Swift, in his satirical poem An Epistle to a Lady, writes, "If I can but fill my niche, I attempt no higher pitch," rhyming the word with pitch and suggesting that at least one misogynist and would-be executioner was pronouncing it this way in 1733. For the majority of the 20th century, niche was the only pronunciation given in most dictionaries, and the growing acceptance of the niche pronunciation towards the end of the century seems to have coincided with the word's overall increase in use, according to the usage trends found on the Collins Dictionary website. This could suggest that modern English speakers rejected the harder niche, favouring the more flaccid and less intimidating niche, thus leading to the increase in its usage. Probably not, though. It's far more likely that it increased in usage as it gained additional definitions throughout the 20th century, although I like to think it was a bit of both, mainly because I prefer niche and this helps the argument for it. An interesting comparison to this niche-niche relationship is the word cliché. As far as I know, no one says cliché, so why wasn't this word anglicised in the same way? One theory is that because it was originally introduced as a printing term, the people first using it in the language were keen to preserve the accent, presumably because the prospect of using the rarely employed E with an acute accent had the typeface-obsessed foaming at the mouth, and this in turn encouraged a French pronunciation. Cliché was, according to the OED, adopted 2 centuries later than niche, and the fast anglicisation of niche may have been due to the state of the language at the point of adoption. I would theorise that, because from the 16th century to the 18th wars between France and Britain were extremely common, a large anti-French contingent would have grown, eventually coming to be known as the Brexit Party. This negative sentiment towards the French may have led to the replacement of such a French-sounding pronunciation with a patriotic English delivery. By 1825, it had been 10 years since the end of the Napoleonic Wars, and Britain wouldn't go to war with France again until they fought Vichy France in World War II. So anti-French sentiment was likely far less prevalent in the 19th century than it had been in the 17th. And of course, by this time, the United States of America had long since been founded, a country that, because they couldn't get their own language, largely spoke English, with many French immigrants and citizens of French descent. Contrary to common misconceptions, niche has achieved considerable popularity in America and only seems to be gaining traction across the English-speaking world, including Australia and New Zealand where, like Britain, it is the most prevalent form. These days, most dictionaries present niche as the dominant pronunciation, and so, as John Simpson remarks in The Word Detective, niche appears to have had its day, albeit a day that lasted the best part of 4 centuries.